Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. So, I thought I would do a video. I've seen other people do these kind of videos where they give their favorite horror movies from each year that they've been alive. So I thought I would do something similar to help celebrate the holiday here. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to give obviously my favorite movie from every year I've been alive, and an honorable mention or a runner up, if you will, for that particular year. So two movies mentioned per year, and I'm on the older side, so this is going to go back a ways and probably be kind of a long video. I'm going to try not to talk too much about each of these movies. Most of them I have reviews up on my channel already, but um, yeah, I was born in '78, so and I'm going to go right, and I'm going to do through 2022, including this year, even though we're only halfway through the year. So that's 44. I'm kind of give you an idea what my age is there, but even though I'm technically not 44 until the end of this year, just got to throw that caveat out there. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get this started. We'll start with me cracking a beer here as I do this. Chars. Mm. Okay, so 1978, that's when it all began for my life. So you probably can figure out what movie's going to be 1978, my favorite horror movie. So I'll start with the honorable mention first, and that's going to be George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead from 1978. This is a movie obviously I have in my collection that it's probably one of the best zombie movies ever. I'm not I'm not as high on it as some other people, but that's more just the fact that I'm zombie movies aren't really my subgenre. But I do recognize that this movie was a game changer. It's a brilliant movie, one of Romero's best. So yeah, Dawn of the Dead's the honorable mention for '78. And if you haven't figured it out by now, hopefully you have. My favorite horror movie from '78 is John Carpenter's Halloween. Just a brilliant film, best slasher movie ever. Certainly top three. Yeah, what can you say? There's nothing else to say about John Carpenter's Halloween from '78. It was an easy choice for me. 1979. My honorable mention is going to be a movie that I recently reviewed as part of my horror movie series of May, and that is Tourist Trap, which a lot of people probably don't know about or haven't seen. It's a PG movie, but it's very creepy, very scary, and atmospheric, and I just really love Tourist Trap. Um, but my favorite movie from '79, to nobody's surprise, probably is the sci-fi movie Alien with Sigourney Weaver. Just a great tension-filled horror movie, sci-fi horror movie. It was another game changer in the genre. Yeah, what else can you say about Alien? One of the great sci-fi movies of horror movies of all time. So that gets us into the 80s. 1980. This was a hard year because the next few years actually were really hard to come up with just two because there's a lot of movies I could mention. But for 1980, my honorable mention is going to be The Changeling with George C. Scott. If you know me, you know I really like haunted house kind of movies. And this is one of the very best, in my opinion, from the production design and the look of the house to the story and George C. Scott's performance. So The Changeling, honorable mention for 1980. But my favorite, if you know me, this will probably won't be a surprise either. I have to go with The Shining. Kubrick's The Shining, based on Stephen King's book. And again, the movie and the book are really nothing alike other than names of the characters. They went for two different complete. Kubrick went for a different movie than what King wrote in his book. I love both the movie and the book, but the movie's just I just love it. I mean, Jack Nicholson's performance, the setting, the everything about it. Like I said, I'm already going against what I said. I wasn't going to get into these movies. So, The Shining for 1980 is my favorite horror movie. 1981. This was a really tough year, maybe the toughest year on this list because 1981 had a plethora of movies that could be here. But my honorable mention is going to be My Bloody Valentine, the original unrated version. The one, not the theatrical version, but the unrated version. This is just one of the great slasher films. Very bloody, very gory. Again, I'm doing it again. Sorry. Okay, my favorite movie for 1981, though, the one that scared me the most is why it's my favorite. And that's The Evil Dead, the original. Evil Dead movie, Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell. Yeah, enough said. 1982 was another tough year. My honorable mention or runner up is going to be Creep Show, the first one. Just a fantastic horror anthology movie. But the winner is going to, of course, going to be John Carpenter's The Thing, um, which was actually a remake of The Thing from Another Planet by Howard Hawks from the 50s. But I just love everything about this movie. I'm not going to go into it. But yeah, The Thing, that was an easy choice. For my favorite from 82, 1983, my honorable mention is going to be what I believe might be the best horror sequel ever, especially with having a time gap, and that's Psycho 2. Just a really, really solid sequel to one of the most famous and well known horror movies of all time. Psycho 2 is my honorable mention, but my favorite from 1983 is actually going to be another John Carpenter movie. John Carpenter's going to show up on this list a lot, especially early, and that's Christine. Christine, I love this movie every time. I love this movie more every time that I watch it. I just love everything about it. So yeah, John Carpenter, 3 of the first 6 years here, my favorite movie from that year. So we go to 1984. My honorable mention for 84 is going to be Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which is my favorite Friday the 13th movie in that entire series. But my favorite for 1984 has to be Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Just such a brilliant idea. Moving on to 1985, we have The Return of the Living Dead as my honorable mention or runner up. Um, but my favorite horror movie from 1985 is definitely Fright Night. It's just such a fun horror movie with vampires. 1986, my honorable mention is going to be House. This is the one with George Wendt in it, Norm from Cheers. Just again, I just love this movie. I have such a good time with it. But Night of the Creeps, nothing can out-top that for 1986 is my favorite horror movies, Night of the Creeps. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I didn't mention this at the beginning of the film, and I'll take a sip of beer while I do this. There are plenty of movies that I haven't seen from every single year I've been alive. So if there's one that you think that should at least be mentioned, it's a possibility I might not have seen it at this point yet. Even if I have it in my collection, I've only gotten into horror really in the last few years. So I just want to throw that out there. 1987, my honorable mention is going to be Clive Barker's Hellraiser. Really love this movie for obvious reasons. But my favorite movie from 1987 is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. It's everything that a sequel should be, even though this isn't a direct sequel. There was a second movie in there after the original Nightmare on Elm Street. To me, this is the best sequel and should have been the follow up sequel to the original. So that's my favorite movie from 87. 1988. My honorable mention is going to be a cheesy one, but one of my favorites, and that's Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I just love this movie. But my favorite movie from 1988 is actually going to be Pumpkinhead with Lance Hendrickson. Yeah, great movie to watch in the month of October. Just a great horror movie. 1989, my honorable mention is going to be a movie that a lot of people might not know about, and that is Society by Brian Yuzma. Um, but my favorite movie from 1989, probably not to a lot of people's surprise, is going to be Pet Cemetery. Now, again, there's other movies in '89 like Intruder that I recently just added to my collection. I have not seen it yet. So, as I said, this could change, but for right now, Pet Cemetery is definitely the best movie, my favorite horror movie from '89. Getting into the '90s, my honorable mention is going to be Misery, which is based on a great Stephen King book. Love the movie. Kathy Bates' performance. What can you say? But my favorite movie from 1990 is my favorite Child's Play movie, and that's Child's Play 2, the sequel. Yeah, favorite movie from 1990. 91, honorable mention is going to be Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs, which I have in my collection. But nothing can top Silence of the Lambs. If we're going to call it a horror movie, I always kind of thought of it more as like a thriller, but technically it is thought to be a horror movie, even though critics tried to stay away from it because they didn't want to praise a horror movie. That's another whole video. But Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster, what can you say? Brilliant horror film from 91. 92, my honorable mention is going to be Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves, and Winona Ryder. Really good cast in this movie. Anthony Hopkins is also in it. one of my favorite renditions of the Dracula story. Um, but Candyman is going to be my favorite horror movie from '92. Tony Todd, just brilliant in that villain role. It has so much. That movie has so much to say as well. Just a brilliant film. Now, as we get into some of these years in the '90s, it was kind of hard to come up with good horror movies, and 1993 is one of those years where I really had to search and dig. '93, I'm going to go with my honorable mention being Needful Things, which I'm not sure is entirely a horror movie, but it's definitely creepy and a thriller. Needful Things, but and then my favorite from '93 is going to be the anthology movie Body Bags, which is sort of directed or stars, I should say, John Carpenter. Three pretty good shorts in it. So '94, my honorable mention is going to be Interview with a Vampire, even though you could argue whether it's a horror movie. I'm going to say that it is because '94 is another year that didn't have a lot of great horror movies. But Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is my third favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie, is going to be my favorite for 1994. '95, Castle Freak is my honorable mention. Stuart Gordon movie, which is kind of overlooked. It's not on the same par as some of his other ones like Reanimator, but I do like Castle Freak. And again, it's another year that doesn't have a lot. But my favorite, easily my favorite for '95 is Tales from the Hood, another horror anthology movie that I just recently reviewed with my May series. Love Tales from the Hood. '96. I'm going to go with my honorable mention being From Dusk Until Dawn with Quentin Tarantino and George Clooney. This is a really underrated, great vampire movie. But of course, you can probably guess what my favorite from '96 is going to be, and that is, of course, Wes Craven's Scream. This is another one of those genre game changers. Yeah, love Scream. '97. Honorable mention is going to be another horror anthology that a lot of people don't talk about, but we're getting into the time of the year to watch it, and that is Campfire Tales. Great horror anthology, telling ghost stories around a campfire with an awesome twist. But of course, my favorite movie from '97 is a follow up to my favorite from '96, which is Scream 2, which is my second favorite Scream movie in that franchise. Getting into 1998, Urban Legend is going to be my honorable mention. But my favorite is actually going to be Halloween H2O. I thought it really revitalized the franchise after some down period there. Jamie Lee Curtis coming back. It's a really good one of the better Halloween movies for sure. '99. This was tough, but my honorable mention is going to be Audition, which is a movie that I absolutely love. It's one of the few foreign films that I actually own. Yeah, what can you say about Audition? But my favorite for '99 has to be the Blair Witch Project, which I know might be controversial for some people because there seems to be a lot of hate for this movie for some people. But I love the Blair Witch Project. It's just it's one of the few found footage movies that I really enjoy. So now we're into the 2000s. And my honorable mention for the year 2000 is going to be Final Destination. But my favorite movie from 2000 is one that I also recently reviewed for my last series, and that is American Psycho with Christian Bale. It just had so much to say. It was so fun. His performance was phenomenal. 2001, my honorable mention is going to be Session 9. This is a really creepy, scary kind of movie that I recently watched for the first time. Really enjoyed Session 9. Um, but The Others from 2001 is going to be my favorite horror movie. Again, I'm a haunted house guy, and this movie does it right again with led by Nicole Kidman. So The Others for 2001. 2002, honorable mention is going to be 28 Days Later. A really good, I'm not going to call it a zombie movie because I believe that these movies are infection movies, not zombie movies. They're not dead. They're not the undead. They're virus rage. But my favorite from 2002, if you've seen my channel, you probably know it's not going to be a surprise, is going to be The Ring, the American remake of Ring You by Gore Verbinski, who does a brilliant job. It's probably the only movie that I actually like the American remake more than the foreign film that it was remade off of. So I don't know if that's a controversial take or not, but hey, it's my opinion. 2003, I'm going to go with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake as my honorable mention for that year. But my favorite film is going to be one that I just don't hear a lot of people talk about. and that is Identity. And I got to say, rest in peace, Ray Liotta, who just passed away a few days ago. That kind of took me off. That got me off guard. I didn't even know he was sick. That was a shocker to me. I love Ray Liotta as an actor, and he's brilliant in this movie. It's probably my second favorite movie of his. Well, tied for second, right behind Goodfellas. But yeah, Identity is just a really interesting and fun movie that really makes you think and has something to say once again. 2004, my honorable mention is going to be the foreign film Three Extremes, which is a horror anthology, an Asian horror anthology. But my favorite from 2004 is definitely going to be Saw, the original, the first Saw, the one that really the only one that I really truly love and consider to be a great horror movie. 2005, Hostel. The first one is going to be my honorable mention. But my favorite movie from 2005 is easily The Descent. Love this movie. 2006 honorable mention is going to be Final Destination 3. I really like this one. It's probably my favorite sequel to the original. I'm sorry, that was my honorable mention. Yeah, but my favorite movie from 2006 is going to be Silent Hill. Really enjoyed this movie. 2007 honorable mention 1408. Again, another sort of haunting hotel room in this case movie with John Cusack. Just a very underrated horror movie once again, in my opinion. But how can I go against? Again, this was another easy choice. Trick or Treat, the horror anthology from 2007. Definitely my favorite movie. 2008, Let the Right One In. The original is my honorable mention for that year. And then my favorite is going to be The Strangers, the best home invasion, scariest horror movie, in my opinion. 2009, honorable mention is The Collector. And my favorite movie, though, is Orphan from 2009, my favorite horror movie. 2010, The Crazies remake is going to be my honorable mention. Um, and Insidious is going to be my favorite horror movie from 2010. Again, some of these years, I have to say it again, I haven't seen all of the horror movies yet that were made in these years, so this list could definitely change. 2011, I think my honorable mention is going to be You're Next, another great home invasion movie with a really good final girl. But my favorite is going to actually be Scream 4, which I know is another controversial polarizing movie. I don't really get it. I think Scream 4 is great. It's my favorite reveal of any killer, including even the original. 2012, House at the End of the Street with Jennifer Lawrence is going to be my honorable mention. It's kind of a movie that doesn't get talked about a whole lot, but I really enjoyed it. But my favorite movie from 2012 is definitely going to be Sinister, the first one. Just great, brilliant, scary as hell. 2013, Curse of Chucky is going to be my honorable mention. It was definitely a return to form for this franchise after it really went downhill with Seed of Chucky, in my opinion. But my favorite movie from 2013, no surprise, The Conjuring. 2014, my honorable mention is going to be The Babadook. But my favorite movie is going to be As Above, So Below. Another one of the few found footage horror movies that I really enjoy. 2015, my honorable mention is going to be The Witch or Vitch with Anna Taylor Joy. Really enjoyed it. But my favorite film from 2015 is another of my. I have three favorite found footage movies. If you know my channel, Hell House LLC is my favorite horror movie from 2015. 2016 honorable mention is Hush. The why can't I think of the director's name? He's such a brilliant horror director. He did the TV show House on um, not House on Haunted Hill, House on Hill or Haunting of Hill House. Michael, I can't think of the name. Somebody can put it in the comments. The Conjuring 2, though, gets my top spot for 2016. I'm a haunted house guy, people. I mean, you really shouldn't be surprised if you followed my channel and you know me. Um, oh, Mike Flanagan, thought of it, sweet. He did Hush and a lot of other great horror stuff. 2017, Get Out is my honorable mention. But my favorite is going to definitely be the It remake. This movie definitely had an impact on me. 2018, I'm going to go as my honorable mention with the Halloween 2018 reimagine, whatever you want to call it, the Jamie Lee Curtis return. Um, so yeah, that's my honorable mention. But my favorite is definitely A Quiet Place from 2018. 2019, Doctor Sleep is my honorable mention. Great follow up to The Shining, especially being so many years later. But my favorite from 2019 is actually going to be another underrated horror movie, in my opinion. That's the movie Haunt, having to do with like a haunted house, uh, like a horror nights kind of thing where real murders end up taking place. We're getting there, folks. Only a couple of years left. I'm old. What can I say? 2020, The Reckoning is my honorable mention. This was a Shudder movie that I watched and really enjoyed. A Quiet Place Part 2, though, is going to be my favorite movie so far from 2020. 2021, Last Night in Soho is my honorable mention. Brilliantly directed with a lot of great technical aspects. But Halloween Kills is going to be my favorite 2021 horror movie. And then finally, the year that we're currently in, but we've already had some great horror movies come out. Scream 5 or Scream 2022, if you will, is going to be my honorable mention. Saw this in theaters, really enjoyed it. But my favorite horror movie so far from 2022, and it's going to take a lot to knock this off, is going to be Ty West's movie X with Mia Goth. So yeah, there you have it. 44 different years of horror movies and 88 different movies mentioned. There's honorable mentions and my favorite from each year. So the video still got too long because I'm just old. What can I say? But I hope you enjoyed it. Happy Memorial Day again to everybody. Have a great day. Stay scared. Bye.